Hello and welcome to the Business Interview. I'm Markus Karlsson. Today we're talking about the business of Scottish independence. Scotland's regional government wants to ask voters in 2014 whether they want to break away from the rest of the UK. It's sparking plenty of questions, political as well as economic ones. Who would control Britain's oil reserves in the North Sea, and what currency would an independent Scotland use? To help us with these questions, we can turn now to Dr. Lena Wilson. She's the Chief Executive of Scottish Enterprise, which works to promote Scottish business at home as well as abroad. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
What is your role as the Chief Executive of Scottish Enterprise?
Well, Scottish Enterprise is Scotland's main economic agency. We've got 1,100 staff, 200 of them in 23 locations all over the world, and we have a budget of about €400 million. And our job is my job is really to lead all my colleagues in transforming Scotland's economy through growing our key sectors, helping the companies that are most likely to grow, and establishing the most competitive business environment. So the economy is front and central to everything that we do.
The economy is also front and centre to the whole independence debate. What do you make of that debate? Do you think that Scottish businesses need to prepare themselves for independence?
Businesses will consider carefully any constitutional environment that they work in. In my role, it's really important that I'm apolitical. My job is about business development, transforming the economy, and not to take a political perspective. However, undoubtedly, businesses want to know that they're working in a competitive environment. And I think that's the most important thing about an independent Scotland or not, is that the competitiveness of the environment, and that remains the case for business.
Let's listen to a clip next from a pollster who will tell us how feasible it is at this stage that Scottish people will go for independence. Let's listen into this.
2 years ago, we were polling about 25% agreeing that Scotland should be independent, and now it's nearer 40%. So you can see that there has been a movement. The key question now is whether that support continues to grow to get above 50% and make a majority, or whether actually we've reached the limits of that support.
All right, we heard that it seems as if, at least at this stage, that more and more Scottish people are coming around to the idea of independence. Is that the same for Scottish business in your view?
I think the most important thing for business is that they're in a country where they're most likely to succeed, and that's the thing that they consider mostly. If I look at our pipeline for foreign investment, and Scotland punches above its weight in UK terms in foreign investment, 20% of all R&D investment that comes to the UK comes to Scotland. We're doing very, very well in our key sectors like life sciences, financial services, tourism, renewables, oil and gas. And that's because we've got a terrific natural asset, we've got great talent, we've got a great business environment, and all those things will remain whether or not Scotland becomes independent. So actually, I don't see any detrimental effect whatsoever in any uncertainty around independence. The countries that we are competing with have many different types of constitutional arrangements, and the companies that we're working with are often working in 100 different countries throughout the world. So independence or not, the key issue is, will all these assets remain in Scotland? And the answer is yes, of course they will.
Now, I understand that you can't really take a position, you can't really say whether you think Scotland should become independent, but it seems as if you're saying that certainly Scotland could become independent from an economic standpoint.
Well, a key part of my job is to make sure that I am listening carefully to businesses in Scotland and globally, and translating that to government who we're very close to and who are very, very pro-business. So my job is to get the right kind of intelligence to government about what businesses want, regardless of the constitutional question, and for government to act on that. And I'm confident that in any constitutional arrangement in Scotland, the current government we have would do that.
But I mean, there are lots and lots of question marks, though, economically for Scotland if it were to become independent. Oil is one of those questions. What's going to happen to the oil reserves of Scotland's coast? Is that going to belong to the UK, or is that going to belong to Scotland? That surely is sparking a lot of concern and questions, as I say.
Interestingly, what I see about Scotland is a lot of curiosity, which I shamelessly exploit along with my colleagues to our advantage. We're the country of the moment, our First Minister is the politician of the moment, and there's a huge interest in Scotland, as there always has been. So we use that curiosity to our advantage. But I have to say that, and I meet with hundreds of businesses all over the world, I'm not getting any negative vibes or questions around whether Scotland's independent or not. I'm getting a great deal of curiosity. And what businesses want to know is that they'll be in a pro-business environment, that they can tap into our scientific talent, our people, our general environment, and that will remain.
And you say that, as you say, that pro-business environment would be there independent on whether or not Scotland does become its own country.
Well, I'm not a politician, and as you said at the beginning of this interview, it's very important that I'm not used politically by any party. But what I can say is that the government have said that they want Scotland to be the most business-friendly country in the world that they can possibly make it. And that's their message to business. That's the message I'm confidently able to give. And if I look at recent announcements for investments into Scotland, I mean, Arriva putting an energy office in Edinburgh, Gamesa bringing 800 jobs just announced last week, GSK bringing £100 million of investment to Scotland just in the past couple of weeks. That doesn't speak to me of any uncertainty.
How strong would you say that the Scottish economy is overall? It seems as if you're fairly confident about the future.
I think the Scottish economy in many ways has been following the trend in the UK economy, although actually for the past couple of years we've been bucking some of those trends. So employment had been growing, unemployment following. But there are certainly issues of great strength in Scotland. Inward investment strengths, our exports. France is our third biggest export market. France is our second biggest source of foreign investment. Our whisky exports growing exponentially. Food exports to France, almost £900 million. So,
but if the Eurozone is one of your biggest customers, isn't that a worry in times like these when there's talk of a recession in the Eurozone? It seems as if the Eurozone is in a recession.
Well, we're seeing exports to key Eurozone countries for some of our high-value food and drink products actually growing. But of course, Scotland doesn't concentrate just on the Eurozone alone. We're doing very well in China. Exports of salmon to China are growing very fast. We're looking to what we do in Brazil on the back of oil and gas. We've got 2 offices in India. We've got a very successful set of joint ventures going in the Middle East. So it's about how Scotland plays to an entire world and how Scotland faces into being a really globally competitive country.
Still, though, when you look at the Eurozone, you must be worried, you must be concerned.
Like every commentator, there are undoubtedly concerns. There's still a fragility, there's still a lack of certainty around some of those economies, but that's why Scotland has to have a very balanced approach, and what we have to do is grow lots of other markets, which we're doing.
Now, how is the turbulence in the Eurozone affecting the debate on Scottish independence? There was talk, for instance, about Scotland using the euro as a currency. That idea must be out the window, so to speak, at the moment.
Well, again, I'm not a politician, and my job is not to predict the future of politics in the country. But what I can say is that the Scottish Government's intention is to use sterling as the currency in Scotland, and the Scottish Government's intention is to be very much a key player in Europe. But this question at the moment is a process. Referendum's over 2 years away. I believe the government will produce their full manifesto regarding independence next year, and I know they're doing a lot of consulting with business, so really understanding what businesses are looking for.
All right, fair point. Now, there's been a few question marks as well at the moment, or people have been asking questions about the Scottish economy vis-à-vis the economy of Northern England. There have been accusations, for instance, that the fact that Scotland is its own economy is taking business away from the north of England.
Businesses will only make decisions based on where they can be most competitive. If something genuinely can't come to Scotland, I would have absolutely, of course, want to see it somewhere else in the UK. And in fact, the rest of the UK is a really important market for Scotland, regardless of the constitutional arrangements. But I have to say that it's my job to prove and make sure and be, ruthlessly focused on making sure Scotland is competitive and that businesses understand they will be really successful in Scotland. And that's why businesses have been flocking in certain industries like renewables, like the energy industries to Scotland, not because we're stealing it from somewhere else, but because they believe the proposition is better and that they'll get better talent, it's a better environment. And we're very connected in Scotland. It's very easy to get everyone in the same room that you need to make a decision. I have very direct links to government. They are very involved in business. So we're able to really get our arms around companies and show that we can support them. Landing a project is only the beginning. It's how you look after these customers. And 80% of all of our investment in Scotland comes from reinvestment of very, very happy customers.
But do you understand that people south of the border are looking at Scotland and thinking that indeed London, after all, does send a lot of transfer payments to Edinburgh and to the rest of the Scottish economy? A lot of English people are questioning why they're doing that at the moment, seeing the whole independence debate.
And similarly, lots of people are very pro-Scotland. We have a lot of English people who live in Scotland. I have two sisters who live in London. I mean, so it's a balanced view throughout the economy. People will have their opinions on this. My job is to work on evidence. I'm quite obsessed with evidence, and it's to make sure we get the facts out and make our decisions based on that. But actually, I think Scotland and England have a very good relationship together and very much rely on each other, and I don't see why that should change.
All right, Lena Wilson, thanks very much indeed, the Chief Executive of Scottish Enterprise. And with that, we're going to wrap up the programme. Thanks for watching the business interview here on France 24.